What's up? This is your man Drake Mack coming to you again with another video. This particular video just asked a real question. Have comics always been quote unquote woke in his own particular manner? That's the question. But before we get to that, the real question is, are you ready? Alright, so I know what I'm about to say is about to cause a stir, and it's probably gonna piss some people off, especially in this video, because I'm like, why are you defending this? There's too many leftists that's coming in our comic book world, and they're trying to change this, and they're flipping characters, and they're doing this and they're doing that. I get it. I understand. As a consumer also, I know what I'm consuming. So if I don't like something, I just stop consuming it. That should be the daily routine for anybody who doesn't like the product that they're consuming. After a while, you just go on to a different product. And again, like I did with my Young Ripper versus Black Sands video, congratulations to Eric, because he's one of those people who talks about how woke comics are nowadays, and he just wanted to do something different that's non-woke. And I get that. Everybody has their opinion, but comics has always been what you quote unquote woke, and like Bill Burr said,
idiots. What kind of a fucking idiot white person refers to themselves as woke?
I mean, this is just kind of how I feel about it. This is Phil, and then I'm gonna go into logic. My feelings is that ever since I started reading comics back in 1992, the first comic I ever read, that I ever purchased myself and read, was Spawn number 19. And one day I'm gonna do a video about that, just to do my reaction, because I haven't really read it since I was a kid. That comic book has been gone since then, but you know, comics has always had a lure in social commentary and all of that for years. Let's just give you an example. Do you know why Superman was created? Superman was actually created with Hitler's rise in Europe, with the anti-Semitic words and the negative stereotype of Jewish people, pushed Siegel and Schuster to make a hero that defended the weak. Now think about that for just a minute.
Space Jews.
Superman was made by two Jewish people at the height of Hitler, so he can do whatever, whenever, so he could be a symbol for the Jewish people. That's what Superman was created for. Doesn't that sound like someone who's quote unquote woke? Let's go ahead and give you another example. Captain America. At the height of Hitler's rule, you have Captain America #1 punching Hitler in Captain America #1. Does that not sound like something that social commentary is woke? What happened to the story? What happened? What does Hitler have to do with a good story? See what I'm saying? It's a lot of people who are saying a lot of things that sounds like when the X-Men, remember this, when Giant Size X-Men debuted in the 1970s, people had a humongous problem with that. Why? Why did they have a problem with that? You have an African goddess on a team like Storm. You got Nightcrawler. A Russian on the team in Colossus. You have a Canadian with Wolverine. I mean, you know, these people really cause a stir about that. Black Panther is another example of what you would call quote unquote woke characters. Now, I get it. A lot of the conversation goes to, well, we've already had these established characters. Why are they taking these established characters and making them somewhere else? I'm gonna give you an example with Captain America. No one had a problem when John Walker became the new Captain America, and I believe in the 1980s. Nobody had a problem with that. People had a problem with their calling the black sidekick Bucky, because the historical connotation that goes with calling black people bucks, especially men. They had an issue with that, but nobody cared that he was Captain America. There was no outrage. There was no letters written into Marvel saying how can you take away mine? That's not my Steve Rogers. Nobody had a problem with Winter Soldier when he was You know, when Bucky Barnes was Captain America, nobody had a problem with that. But oh my God, Jane Foster's Thor, how could you do that? Oh my God, Falcon is a Captain America, how could you do that? Miles Morales is the new Spider-Man because it killed the ultimate comics version of Spider-Man. How could you do that? Why can't you just create your own characters? Again, when Marvel, DC, and a lot of comic book creators tried to create their own characters, they use them as caricatures. I'm showing you right now some of the images of some of the comics that they try to create with newer versions, newer characters, all of that, you know. And now that you have more representation from the LGBT community and they want their story told, I get it. I also get it from their side that, look, this is the world that we live in. People who have been gay for centuries. You know, what about the character he, she? Nobody. The most horrendous character, one of the most horrendous characters that you could ever create, doesn't know if he's a man or a woman. They named him he, she. You see what I mean? So there has been attempts at creating characters which is horrible. The Mandarin and all these other characters were horrible. Nobody goes back and said, well, we could just use those characters and we could just spruce them up. Look what they did with the Ancient One. Even Kevin Feige had to take some heat because the Ancient One was supposed to be a Tibetan person. Supposed to be somebody of Asian descent. And they went ahead and slapped another white person on it. And comics were made for white people. I'm going to just tell the truth. Comics were made for white people. But then once Marvel and DC start understanding the fan base and most of these people that are starting to collect comics now are starting to be of different demographics, your world can't be white because the world is not white. The world is not straight. The world is just not gay. The world is not any of those things. We live in a mixed bag society. And the comic's supposed to represent that. Now, we jump in the fantasy world where raccoons can talk and trees and all this stuff, and people be having problems with a black Captain America. When Chris Evans had to come out and say, what are you guys doing? And this is not me nagging at comic book people. Do what you do. But golly, be like Eric and create your own thing if you don't like it, or stop consuming. I like good stories, but I also like diverse people in the story. What makes this character the way that they are? And yes, their personality, their sexual preference, their upbringing, you know, all of that plays a factor into a character. A character is just not one-dimensional. A character is multifaceted. So you have to understand that a lot of the characters that we had were really cut and dry, and then you started to understand their characters. I'll give you an example. When Chris Claremont started writing the X-Men, he made the X-Men way more of an understandable group of people, or an oppressed people with a bunch of people that are humans that don't like them just because they have powers, you know. So Chris Claremont took the time to write and develop the characters of the X-Men so you could be able to understand these characters. That's why we love them so much. It's not just the big events and all of that. It's the integral parts of the characteristics of the person. And yes, that person may be gay or black or Pakistani, but they mean something in a grander scheme of things because this is what the world is. And comics represent a lot of what's going on in the world of social commentary. So you don't like it, don't consume it. But if you understand where I'm coming from, do you understand still the love and happiness that I have for comics and why I keep collecting comics? Alright, this your man Dre Mack. Understand where I'm coming from. Man, comics always been woke. They just been woke for either side. Now you're just on the opposite side. Peace. Vibe higher.